Hi and welcome to my short tutorial about editing your JPEGs from your mobile phone. I'm going to be using Lightroom in my PC, but if you go across to the Apple Store or the Google Store and download Snapseed, the principles are pretty much the same, although the software is slightly different, obviously. But yeah, you'll be able to follow along. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Hi, my name's Dave Haslam and I'm from Smartphone Professional Photographic. I'm going to be teaching you how you can take better images from your smartphones. That's the idea of this channel, and what we're going to be doing today is editing the JPEG straight from your mobile phone. I'll be using Lightroom on my PC, but if you go over to the Apple Store or Google Play, you'll be able to download Snapseed, which you'll be able to then follow along with. It has the same functionality, it's just on your mobile phone. Let me first start off, before we go into this, is explain to you what I'm trying to do is get to 1,000 subscribers. So if you can smash that button down below, get me to 1,000 subscribers, it'll help me build the channel and I'll be really grateful. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go straight into my PC and I'll show you the first image. Now this is the first image. It's taken from the back of a car, as you can probably see, and it's a bit overexposed for the outside. So what I'm going to try and do is show you how you can recover an image which has been blown out because of the more light on the outside and very little light on the inside, like in this car. So the first thing I'm going to do is, as you can see in the windscreen, is take down the highlights because they are literally overpowering the image. So the first thing is to go over to the right hand side and you'll see there's a slider that says highlights. You can move that backwards and forwards. You'll see if I move it right to the right, it will increase the highlights, and it doesn't really do anything to the dark or the shadow areas. So I'm going to bring it down to the left, and I think roughly there looks a little bit better. So that's the first slider. The next one I'm going to do is bring back the shadows, because obviously by bringing down the brightness, it also disappears into the shadow. So what I want to do is bring back all the details that are disappeared into the shadows. So if you see what I'm doing here, I bring the shadow slider to the right, and all the details that were missing because they were hidden in the shadows come back. So that's a simple solution to actually having an image which is a bit overblown or overexposed. And sometimes if it's overexposed, there's absolutely nothing you can do. Like in this case, if I was to look at the area here in the windscreen, you'll notice that there is no detail there, and because it was all overexposed, you're not going to get that detail back. So next thing is I'm going to go on to the next image and show you a little bit more on how you can actually make skies look a bit more dramatic. So let's do that. Let's bring up the next image. So this is the second image we're going to be looking at. What I want to try and do is bring back the sky and make the sky look a bit more dramatic. This is an image of the Spinnaker Tower in Portsmouth. You can see it looks a little bit drab, the image at the moment, but what I'm going to try and do is bring it back, give it a little bit of colour and make the sky look a bit dramatic by altering some more sliders. So let's start off in rather the same way as we did before. I'm going to play around with the highlights. There's too many highlights there. Let's take the highlights down, which actually, if you look at the sky, brings back the sky a little bit, so it looks a little bit more blue. We need a bit more detail out of the shadows. The shadows have actually, I'm going to bring that back until it's nice, and you can see a bit more detail in the shadows. Right, okay. This time I think there's a lot of white in here, so let's take some of the white slightly down, and the blacks, let's give it a bit more drama by bringing the blacks down slightly. So we've added a couple more sliders in there just to show you that the more sliders you add in, the better the image will get. So that's what we've done here. We've just added in a couple more sliders to increase the blacks and decrease the or decrease the blacks and decrease the whites. So in fact, decreasing actually increases the blacks. What I think I'm going to do is bring back some of the clarity, and you'll see that the sky looks a hell of a lot more dramatic and a lot nicer. Sometimes, if you put back Dehaze, you'll notice we haven't really got a lot of haze here, but I'm going to use it anyway because I like to actually add a little tiny bit of Dehaze, and you'll see that the sky suddenly starts popping out. That's personal preference. That's the way I like it. And I'm also then going to go over to the Vibrance, bring back some of the vibrant colours in there, and you'll see how that creates a nice image that just pops out. And that's what I mean by creating a professional looking image from your mobile phone. So I'm going to leave that one there, and I'm going to go on to the next image. Right, with this image, I'm going to, sometimes less is more. So I think we got too much of the water there. So first thing I'm going to do is go into the crop tool, and I'm going to bring down the bottom and bring it straight into the center. And you'll see that you've got these grid lines. This is the 3x3 grid that you probably saw when you were taking a photograph in your mobile phone in the first place. So provided you've lined that up pretty well, then you shouldn't have any problems with having to line up with the grid lines. But if you haven't lined it up very well, you can actually just move it around here. So I'm going to say that's cropped, and it brought the image that we really want to edit into the foreground. So now, same thing, we're going to take down the highlights, and I'm going to do that from here, from this slider, and the shadows, bring up the shadows slightly, and it does the same thing as before. Whites, take that, the whites, bring back the blacks a little bit, and as you can see, that has made a hell of a lot of difference to the image already. I'm going to this time, because I like the water texture, let's bring back some of the texture and a bit more clarity in the image. And again, as I said, my preference is a little tiny bit of dehaze. There isn't a lot of sky there to actually do anything with that. This time we're going to play around with some of the vibrance and saturation. Now, if I tend to not touch the saturation too much, because you can actually make some really horrible effects out of it. In fact, or you can remove all the colours completely. So we're going to leave that at 0, and we're going to use the vibrance instead. And you'll see what that does. That actually brings back a really nice image there. I'm going to go back to the crop tool because I think we can probably crop that in even further. Now, as I've said in the previous videos, the idea of the grid lines is to help you with your composition. What it means is it is called the rule of thirds, where you actually have 3 lines or 3 horizontal or 3 vertical lines, areas, I should say, 1, 2, 3. And the idea is, or the school of thought is, that the most interesting parts of an image, which human behavior is, that the intersecting lines here are where people tend to focus on for the most interest in their images. So if I, as I have done here, put the 2 divers on the bottom, crossing lines, then that should provide a bit of interest. Now the difference here is I'm also using Symmetry, because pretty much everything on the back sides of or the background of this image is similar. So there's another composition rule, is Symmetry. So Let's go back to what we were talking about, the vibrance. I'm going to bring back the vibrance even further, and you can see exactly what it does. It over saturates all the colors. Let's knock it back. As we do that, you'll see that the image comes out nicely. Now, in order, because this is in the center, to bring the image out even further, we can actually go down, and this is also available on Snapseed, is Vignette. Now, what is a vignette? You can have, it's a circle. You can actually have white vignette, or you can have a dark vignette. I tend to like it just to highlight the center and take down, bring it darker in the outside. And that's really about it for this image. I'm going to leave this image here. There is a bit more obviously I can do, but it's a bit outside of the scope of what we're talking about today. Right, let's move over to what is the next image. Right, before I continue, could I ask you if you would click on the subscribe button down below? It helps me build this channel, and my next goal is just to get to 1,000 subscribers. So if you can hit that button, it'll be much appreciated. Okay, back to the image. Right, now this is an interesting image, and the reason I picked this image is because you'll notice that the building in the background isn't level or straight, and you'll find this in a lot of photographs that you're taking, that the buildings will look like they're either on converging or diverging, or whatever whichever way round it is. So you need to be able to fix that. So what I'm going to do is show you how you would do it in Snapseed. It's slightly different in Lightroom, but I will use the transform tool in the same way that you would do in Snapseed. This is called Keystoning. It's not the best way of doing it, but I'm going to do it because that's the way you will do it in Snapseed. So what you would have is a slider with vertical, and you'll notice if I move it backwards and forwards, it makes the photograph look like it's tilting. And that's how you would improve the image in Snapseed. So that's what we're going to do here. And of course, now you can see there's a lot of area that we need to get rid of. So we go back into the crop tool, bring the sides in just to meet the bottom, and bring the bottom up. Let's take it up a little bit further there. Enter. And you'll notice now that the building in the background looks a little bit straighter. So we can now go back to editing the image in the same way as we did with the others. So let's do it exactly the same way. This one's slightly underexposed, so I'm going to bring the exposure up before I do anything, just a smidge. There you go. I think that was 0.35, not a lot at all. So you can see how much just a slight change can actually make. So same thing, highlights. Let's bring the highlights down. Shadows up. Not too far. There we go. Let's bring it up about 30-ish. Let's take some of the whites out slightly. Bring some of the blacks down. And I'm going to bring the texture back up again. We've done all this in the previous. And Dehaze. Dehaze will give you this effect to the sky, and Vibrance. So the whole thing is exactly the same as we did before. There isn't much difference. Now what I'm going to do differently here is I'm going to alter the color balance or the color temperature. I'm going to make it a little bit more warm. And what I mean by warm, you can go to the left, everything will go blue. If you go to the right, everything will go slightly red or orange in this case. Let's make it a little bit more orange, give it a bit more color. and look how that brings out the sky. Whoops, that's a bit too far. Let's take it back to about 20. So I've probably overdone it a little bit there, but that's exactly what it is. You're trying to achieve is to get a nice, nicer image than the one you took, and you'll see from what the original image looked like to what it is now is a considerable difference. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it from here. So all I can say now is thank you for watching it, and again, please subscribe. I am trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and it would be much appreciated. So if you did find this useful and you did enjoy the video, please hit the button below. I can get to 1,000 subscribers. It helps me build this channel. So thank you for watching.